So welcome to our second part in our video about advice to people from Britain coming to the US for the first time. In our first video, we talked about driving, electrical sockets, what else did we talk about? Getting around the country, weather and visiting other places. We've got some more top tips coming up for you in the rest of the video.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Susie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Welcome back to our second part of the advice that we're offering to Britons coming to the Americas for the first time. Next thing, or first thing for this one, is going to be all about tipping. This is a big one for the US because it is quite ubiquitous over here.
Yes, if I can crawl back into time, back 30 years or so to my first visit here, me and my mate were in New Orleans, and we went into a pub, into a bar, and we were stood at the bar and we bought our drinks, and a dustpan was plonked down in front of us asking for us to pay a tip.
Not only clean
the
floor.
Not clean the floor. No, it was heaving. So that was a bit of an eye opener because we'd never encountered anything like that before. But it is part of natural transactions here, isn't it? That you give a tip.
So we wanted to give you an idea of what kind of tip, like how much to give in certain circumstances. So if it is, I don't know, what would you say? Most things are service of some kind. It's kind of expected around 15 to 20% on top of the actual cost.
Yeah.
So if you get a bill at a restaurant, add 15 to 20%, have your biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a taxi, Uber or whatever it is, again, I mean, it depends. If you think that the service was not that good, then feel free to give less.
Yeah.
But, pretty much as standard, they are going to ask for 15 to 20%. I will add a little story of mine here. One time I was in New York and I added the tip to the actual credit card. The guy didn't read that part of it and thought that me and my friend had left without giving a tip. It was like a Spanish cantina type place in New York. And he chased us down the street thinking that we hadn't given him a tip.
You gypped him a tip.
So they are very touchy about this. So make sure but again, if it's poor service, feel free to make your tip less than.
But the reason why tipping is so important here is because they don't get paid a decent wage.
That's right.
Their income is dependent upon their tipping.
Yeah.
So you can understand it in the service industries why they're so dependent upon these things.
If you're at a bar and you're just getting a drink or two, you don't have to give like
the 20%.
Just add in a few bucks more to whatever you're paying for the drink. And then we also wanted to mention this because some people, I know that we didn't necessarily do this for our first vacation over here together, was to add the tipping part to your overall budget that you're planning when you're spending your holiday time over here. Because some people, they add in, I don't know, if you're like us, I mean, this is how I was kind of brought up doing it, is you have obviously got your hotel expenses and you've got your vehicle expenses maybe, but you kind of just do a daily amount for the rest of it, don't you? So like $100 a day or something like that per person or whatever it is. And some people don't have in that, they just think of like maybe a couple of meals and a souvenir or something. They don't add in that tipping aspect because it can, I mean, prices are gone up over here anyway, but like if you think that you're going for maybe like a $25, $30 meal, you might get a bit surprised.
The other thing is cash, having some cash for tipping or for valet parking or any of those other things as well. The tap and pay stuff probably doesn't extend to tips, I would say. So it might be useful for all those situations where, like, say, they're hailing a cab for you outside of a hotel and you tip the guy for doing that, then you'll need some cash.
Or carrying your bags and stuff.
Always have some ones and fives, some small denomination ones to use for tipping.
Yeah. So then we're going to go on to shopping. I mean, anyway, specifically when I wrote this one, I meant food shopping. Like if you are staying at a villa or maybe like an Airbnb where you can make meals.
Self-catering, effectively,
just be aware that they don't really do small sizes.
Yeah.
So for like the two of us, there is nothing really that just fits that bill, is there? No. You're either going to get something that's massive and might do you for a week, or they might do like a single portion, at a lunch counter or something.
Yeah.
But in most cases, food comes in large boxes or packages or liter bottles, 2 liter bottles, or whatever it is.
I would add to that when we first came here, because it ties into the next thing we're going to talk about, is with the portion sizes. When we first arrived, we'd share meals a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But obviously we were acclimatized.
No, I think, but saying that, I think more when you go to a restaurant, we can never eat more than one course each.
Yeah.
The portion sizes are just that big that if we went in and had a starter each, which they call appetizers, if we had one of those each, we wouldn't need any other food, because the appetizers, the starters, are quite big in and of themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you're going to share, that's what we would do. If you're going to have an appetizer or a starter, it might be wise to share one, because they are quite big and you might not make it through the rest of your meal. Like we have jokingly said, we're just going to have a starter and a dessert and that's it, really, because they are very big.
The other thing is, you don't be, if you're staying in a hotel, you're staying in anywhere that's got a fridge, don't be shy about asking for a box.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't finish your meal, take it away with you. It's yours. You've paid for it. You might want it later on.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is
and
easy
they won't
to
be
do
funny
here.
about that. They have boxes ready to go so you're allowed to take them on.
Definitely. And then you can have meal for your dinner for the next day or two. Also, if you're paying by credit card, don't be afraid, because they will take your card away to a station to swipe it and bring back a receipt for you to pay. We are always taught in the UK, aren't we, to not let our credit cards out of our sight or out of our possession. And so it was very unnerving for me the first couple of times. Well, it still is, actually, to be honest with you. Quite unnerving, because I have to lock eyes and see where that person's going with the card all the way around the restaurant, because we're so worried about fraud.
And it's when they bring that slip back, that's when you add the tip.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And have a look at the receipt, because some restaurants actually give you the calculation, because that's the bit that some people find difficult, is adding the numbers together with the tip. So some of the receipts actually give you the amount. They give you the amount already, so it makes it handy, doesn't it? Yeah. In this category, we wanted to mention special mention sandwiches.
Oh yes. Now, I am forever changed by my stay in the United States, because I must admit, for the majority of my career, when I worked in Manchester city centre, I'd pop out at lunchtime and I'd go to British Home Stores or Marks and Spencer's and I'd buy a pre-packed sandwich, and I'd be quite happy with that. We'd go to the local sandwich shops and they'd make very nice fresh sandwiches while you waited. But I mean, when you eat a sandwich, we can have a sandwich for dinner here, can't we? Because you get that much stuff on it. Yeah.
You can actually just get, and I'm doing this, and you're thinking that's the whole filling. This might just be the meat.
Yes.
You get slices of turkey or ham or roast beef, and you're talking about, I can't fit these sandwiches in my mouth.
Our local supermarket, on their deli counter, they have a sign saying there's a pound of meat in their sandwiches, easily.
Now, I can come home with that, peel off those layers, use the rest of that meat for my sandwiches for the rest of the week, and still be absolutely perfectly happy with my sandwich.
Yeah.
There are times that same with burgers. I really literally cannot get it in my mouth. My mouth does not open that wide.
No.
So just be warned.
And of course, there'll be cheese.
Yes.
There's always cheese.
So speaking of food, you usually accompany that with
a nice cup of tea.
So ordering tea over here is a bit more involved, and I shall leave that to the expert.
Yes. We live in North Carolina, so when you ask for tea here, they naturally assume that you mean cold, sweet tea. Iced tea, not the wrapper. If you want a cup of tea, then you have to be very specific. Personally speaking, not a big fan of perfumed or fruity teas. I just like your bog basic standard black tea.
Yes.
So if you want something PG tips, Thai Fui, Tetley, Yorkshire tea-ish, you ask for English breakfast tea, black tea, and they'll sort you out with a bag. Now, if you're in some kind of swanky place, they'll give you weird tea bags that are like made of plastic mesh. Don't be put off by that. It can be quite nice. But the one thing I would say is, unless you drink your tea black and you want to pop a bit of milk in there, milk of your choice, ask them to leave enough room for you to put milk in, because they will fill it all the way up to the top with hot water. Don't be intimidated. They do make some. You can get some decent cups of tea here. It's just you've got to make sure that you find it.
And I would also say let that tea bag sit in there for a bit.
Yes.
Because it'll be a bit weak to start with.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know what it is, they just don't seem to have the same amount of tea in a tea bag here that we would have back in dear old Blighty. So don't be put off. Don't think you have to come here and drink coffee if you don't want to drink coffee, if you're not a coffee drinker. But tea is available. It's just you have to be specific about it.
Yeah, and we say that also because sometimes, like those places like Starbucks and things, you might not see it on the menu, but they do still offer it.
Yeah.
You just have to ask for it.
Yeah. Speaking of tea and room accompaniments,
interested in this link here.
Hey, what about that? That's a slick link, isn't it? Bed and breakfast.
So yeah, in the UK, we have obviously got your chain name hotels, Hiltons, Marriotts, and all of that.
I thought you were going to say Premier Inn.
No, then I said then you have your lesser
Oh,
ones,
right, okay.
like your Travelodge and your Premier Inn.
Yeah.
They're cheaper, aren't they? But we also have bread and breakfast, or B&Bs as we call them. But in the UK, I would say that a B&B is more expensive than your Travelodge, Premier Inn, but not as expensive as, say, like a Hilton or a Marriott, right?
Yeah, that's not along those lines, yeah.
But it's very different over here in the US. The bed and breakfast actually can be much more expensive than your regular Hilton, Marriott type hotel.
Yeah. We've stayed in a couple over here, haven't we?
Yeah.
The first time I came here with you, we stayed in one. We've been in that one a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it's very different from what you would get in the UK and I'd say Ireland as well, because I stayed in a lot of B&Bs in Ireland, and it is usually someone's house where they're putting you up.
Yeah.
These are more like boutique hotels. Imagine a little boutique hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more attention to detail, but you're paying for that, I think, with a B&B here.
And it's more, again, this is based on our experiences of B&Bs over here. They're more I don't know, they're more involved. Like the people who run the B&B want to be a bit more involved in your day.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, like you can be just coming and going if you want to, but they will want to take time in the afternoon to have a little chat and maybe some pastries. They'll leave out cookies and pastries and lemonade or iced tea or coffee or whatever.
Yeah, it's a million miles away from a no offense, Blackpool B&B landladies, but it's a different world to that, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the breakfast is not just a fried breakfast. They usually have made something a bit more special.
Yeah.
Like we stayed at one, and it was an eggs Benedict, wasn't it? Because she was a French chef.
Then some, yes.
But they really put on a lot more for you, and they take a lot more time for you. I'm not saying they don't in British bed and breakfast. I'm just saying the experience is very different. You kind of see the people in the UK when you check in, you see them at breakfast, But over here, like I say, as soon as if you come back from somewhere, they'll say, "Oh, how was your stay?" And they're just a lot more involved.
Yeah.
But then you do pay a price for that as well.
But I would say if you're looking for kind of more authentic America and you're not in the usual touristy places, a B&B might be a good idea because they know what's to see around there.
Yeah,
you probably get more. I mean, I don't know.
It's just nice. It's because you get to have sort of that local person interaction that you may not get at a hotel, because you can see a concierge, but that's not necessarily getting that sense of living in the area and what the locals might know. Yeah.
Speaking of big hotels,
so I would say this is the thing for me, because I haven't ever experienced this in the UK anyway. Every time we have stayed at, say, like a Marriott, as I said again, Marriott, Hilton, there are other hotels out there. You kind of get approached by people who are not telling you up front, but they are there trying to sell you a timeshare or some kind of timeshare activity.
The funniest one of those, I have to admit, was on our honeymoon. After traveling 23 hours, we arrived in Las Vegas and we were looking to
It was like 3 o'clock in the morning as well.
Looking for the check-in desk, and this guy came up to you and you said, well, excuse me, where's the check-in desk? And he said, well, it's over there, but have you ever considered if looks could kill, that man would be dead now?
I was very tired.
Yes.
So yes, I just wanted to know where to check in, and he kept saying, "But if I could just," I said, "No, just point me in the direction."
Now we consider ourselves to be quite cynical.
We are,
but even now and then we get caught by this kind of thing. A concierge in a hotel that we will not mention. Signed us up for a presentation, and we were sucked in, weren't we? And we consider ourselves to be quite, savvy, but it all seemed.
We got it in the end. We got there in the end. We figured it out.
If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
I will say though, if it is something that you can tolerate, you can sometimes get some good freebies from these things.
Yes.
I don't know about so much now, but I can say the first time I came with you we went down to Florida, my parents had gone on ahead and they actually sat through one of these timeshare things to get us free tickets to Disney.
Yeah.
So, and we had done it. We did it
good tickets as well.
We did it up in Gatlinburg, was
it? Yes, Gatlinburg, but you were poorly, so you didn't really reap the benefit.
I had some crazy flu, so he wanted me out of there anyway. But the same idea. We managed to sit through it, but to get points or whatever it was. I know they paid for the trip. That's what it was.
Paid for our trip.
They paid for the hotel stay. So we did get something out of it, but just be aware that they're always going to be trying to sell you something.
Yeah, and some salespeople are very slick, and you don't realise until you've signed up the dotted line.
Don't get sucked in.
Be careful.
Okay, so speaking of hotels, we just a very quick mention in here of hotel bathrooms. So hotel bathrooms, did we mention this in the last one?
We said we were going to talk about this.
I can't remember. We'll just put it in here just in case.
Yeah.
In the bathrooms, there are normal sockets, but not just the shaver ones. So just be very wary. And they will, you can dry your hair in the bathroom, but obviously be very cautious because that thing can fall out of the socket and electrocute you. So just don't do it. I mean, hair dryers now have a built-in safety device. You should be fine.
Thank you, Doctor.
Sorry. Moving on. Sales tax.
Oh, yes, sales tax. Now, if you're coming from the UK, you are used to VAT. Here in the US, they have things like sales tax for different states. And instead of incorporating the tax into the price of, say, I'm buying this biscuit, and on the rack it says it's 10 cents. When you get to the till to pay for this biscuit, it will be 10 cents
plus something else.
So it would turn out to be 12 cents instead because there's a local sales tax gone on top of it. So if you're one of those people that likes to pay with the exact money,
yes,
you're going to be caught out because the price that you see on the rack is not what you pay when you get to the till, because the tax goes on at the till.
And I would also say, if you pay with a credit card, and they don't tell you, the people behind the till, they assume that there's sales tax to be added. So of course you might think that you're buying, say, a polo shirt for $20, and then when you look at your receipt after you've paid, and actually you've paid $24 or something, that might be a bit high, but you get the idea. You may think that you've been conned, but no, you have to look at the sales tax. And as Paul mentioned, that can vary from state to state. So some states have higher, some states have lower sales tax. You just have to do your research on that.
Yeah.
There is also, what I was going to say, sometimes they will ask you, did they used to do that on the form? If you bought something in a different state and you hadn't paid, say, sales tax, that you have to pay it?
Only on our taxes.
I apologize. Yeah. Ignore me on that. Okay, so we wanted to mention bars. We don't go to a lot of bars, to be honest with you, but the experiences that we have had at bars is that they sometimes ask you if you want to open a tab.
Yes.
And I didn't quite know what they were meaning the first time that happened to me.
You were thinking of referring to an old 70s soft drink.
Yes, a tab.
Yeah.
And what they're saying to you is that, do you want to keep this account open because you want to order more drinks in the future?
Yeah, or food or whatever.
Yeah, so they don't ask you to pay per drink. You can just do whatever you want to do and then pay everything at the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, they may ask to keep your card behind the till, behind the bar. And that's the bit I don't like.
Yeah.
But it's up to you. But it goes back to that thing of us not wanting to let our credit cards out of our sight type thing. So most bars, you would think, you're going to go to the city. And this does work in a lot of the big cities.
Yeah.
Our city, not so much. So we just wanted you to be cautious that if you are venturing further afield, then
away from the usual tourist trails, and you're stopping in what you think is a big city.
Yeah.
And you're staying in a downtown hotel, you might find it dead at night because the places where people live are outside, and that's where you'd find the local eateries and drinkeries.
So like in the UK, we're used to going into the city because that's where all the nightlife is. Not so much in some places.
Yeah, we can only speak about where we live. Yeah. And it is very spread out into the suburbs, I would say.
I think we can say we live, there's areas of North Carolina. Raleigh, I would say, is like this.
Yeah.
Greensboro is like this. Yeah. Charlotte's like this.
Yeah.
But if you go to more touristy places like Asheville and Wilmington, then yes, the nightlife is
in the city. Yeah.
But not in every place.
Yeah.
Very quick one in here. When we first came here, maybe not so much now with the whole tap, the whole COVID thing.
I remember the first time we went to a supermarket here in North Carolina. I'd not noticed it anywhere else when we were here before. And we were in a line and
a
queue. Oh my God, I've gone native. We were in the queue, and there was a lady of a certain age in front of us who was paying with a cheque. And this was 2010. I've not seen people using cheques in supermarkets since, the early 1980s.
Yeah.
So it came a bit of a shock that cheques were still a thing here.
They still are a thing, to be honest. I know you're probably watching this because you're coming on vacation or holiday, but if you work over here, a lot of your workplaces will ask you for a cross check in order to set up your pay system, your salary to be paid into your account. It's just really bizarre, but
it's just one of those things. So be on the lookout for that if you're in a long queue and someone's at the front of the queue writing a check out.
So the last thing we wanted to mention, as we did in our previous companion video, is
because these are things that are interchangeable.
Over here the perception of the British.
Yeah.
So you can talk about this one.
Well, when we first moved here, because I would say where we live isn't a touristy place, people would hear me speak and, I love your accent. And they'd just ask random places. People thought I was from Germany or from Australia. But they're intrigued by an accent. So
even now, we still get that, don't we?
Yeah.
We got the other day from a waitress.
But you can work it to your advantage, can't you? I mean, because it's not a place where tourists abound, you can seem, I don't know, they're happy to treat you better than they would one of the locals, I would guess.
And they probably have questions for you from whereabouts in England are you from, or Britain are you from. I would say in the companion video, I mentioned how if you are an American in Britain, they'll either love you or hate you. Over here, they'll just love you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Brits, they'll just love you.
Yeah.
They may get your accent wrong.
That's the other thing as well.
But they may also,
be prepared for them to try and do your accent back to you. Now, if you're on holiday, maybe it's not so bad. But after a while, when you're living here,
and they're not very good.
Much.
Anyway, but we will say that it never hurts to ask politely if there is a discount for tourists.
Yes.
In your lovely British accent, because you may actually find you'll get a discount.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's it.
That's that list done.
So again, as usual, we keep wanting to make mention of questions throughout the video, but we get so caught up in what we're chatting about. And so please, if we have missed anything, if you think we had got anything wrong, if you think that, we should have mentioned X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Or if your experiences mirror what we've said, or if they're vastly different, we'd love to know, because obviously we can only go off our own experience. So we're intrigued to know what you know.
Drop us a line. Please, if you like this and found it helpful or funny, please like and subscribe, as we have more experiences to discuss.
Yeah.
Until then, I'm going to have this last biscuit.
I'm going to have my cup of tea.
And we'll see you another time.
Yeah. Take care. Bye for now.